with a mic and machete. Aldreama Harper, she ready and steady. Organizepreneur with a plan, never petty. Dropping gems, got my thoughts feeling heavy. All right, welcome to another episode of the Organizepreneur podcast Launchpad, where we help you turn your calling into content that changes lives. We also help you launch, streamline, and grow your podcast while keeping your business organized and thriving. I am your host, Aldreama Harper, and today we're diving into another topic that is close to my heart. We're going to be talking about how biblical principles straight from Genesis can be applied to your business and your podcasting journey. And so if you're feeling a little bit overwhelmed or stuck or unsure of your next step, then tap in, because this episode is for you. We're going to be exploring God's creation story, God's creation process. Yeah. This is going to teach us how to build with purpose, order, and excellence. And so today's episode title is Business and Podcasting Lessons from Genesis. All right. Are you ready? Let's go ahead and talk about it. So, in today's fast-paced world of business and digital media, we often look to modern technologies and cutting-edge techniques for guidance. However, some of the most profound principles for success can be found in humanity's oldest text, the Bible. The first chapter of Genesis, while it's primarily, most people will say it's a religious text, but there are some powerful things that we can learn from this scripture. Because in the first chapter of Genesis, while again, a lot of people just refer to it as, religious context, this is for our lives. This is for living. This is for how we do everything, especially if you are a believer. And so, not only is it helping us in those things, it's helping us in our business because it offers timeless wisdom that can be revolutionary in terms of how we approach business and content creation, believe it or not. Because when we examine the methodical, purposeful way in which creation unfolds in Genesis 1, we'll discover a blueprint that emerges, a blueprint for excellence that transcends its spiritual origins. These verses reveal principles of order, quality, purpose, and stewardship, to say the least. This is just surprisingly relevant for today's entrepreneurs and content creators. Because whether you're launching a startup, scaling a business, or developing a podcast, these biblical principles, these biblical insights can provide a robust framework for building something truly meaningful and sustainable. And so we're going to explore how these foundational principles from the dawn of creation can transform your approach to modern business and content creation, offering both practical guidance and ethical direction for your professional journey. So let's go ahead and tap in, shall we? So first, order and structure. God created everything in an orderly, systematic way over 6 days, demonstrating the importance of having a clear plan and structure. For business or podcasting, this suggests developing organized processes, content calendars, and systematic approaches to growth rather than operating chaotically. A lot of you are operating
chaotically because I get a lot of questions. How do I handle all of these moving parts in my business? How do I handle all of these moving parts in my podcasting journey? I am not sure what systems I need to put in place. I am not sure what is my next step. Well, listen, the Bible has a framework. Okay, so first it talks about order and structure, then purpose and vision. Everything God created has a specific purpose and function. Similarly, your business or your podcast should have a clear mission and a statement and purpose with each element, your product, your episode, or your service, all of those being defined, serving a defined role in achieving your overall vision. And so I talk about this when I talk to my clients when we're talking about structuring the podcast in a clear way so that you know who your audience is, what niche are you in, how you're going to serve them. When you sit down and establish a specific purpose and function for your business and or your podcast, you do that by creating a clear mission statement and a purpose. And so this is going to help you stay focused. It's going to help you stay on track. It's going to help you not go from here to there when you remind yourself of why you started this journey in the first place. Next, let's talk about quality control. God repeatedly assessed his work, noting that it was good. And this demonstrates the importance of quality control and regular evaluation of your output. And for podcasters, this means reviewing episodes before they're released. And for businesses, it means quality assurance of your products and your services. And so this is extremely important. And some people may say, well, let's just do it, messy. Let's just do it, let's just start. And that is true. But you do want to evaluate the progress. You want to look at your KPIs. You want to look at what's going on with your audience. Are they listening? Are they hanging around? Are you asking for feedback? All of these things are extremely important in the process. All right, stewardship and responsibility. The mandate to have dominion and be fruitful and multiply suggests responsible management and growth. And in business terms, this translates to sustainable growth, ethical management of resources, and responsible leadership of your employees or your team members. Stewardship is important. When God gives us an assignment, when He gives us a ministry, when He gives us a job, when He gives us a business, a podcast, a course, a coaching program, whatever that is, we are to be responsible. It's all about being a good steward. Next, what about value creation? So, in the process, we're still in Genesis here. God created resources. He created the plants, the animals, the light. He created everything that would sustain and benefit others. And so your business or your podcast should similarly focus on creating genuine value for your audience or your customers, not just generating profit. Think about what value do you bring from the experiences that you bring to the table? How can they benefit those that you serve? Let's move to complementary elements, because different aspects of the creation process complemented each other. like day, night, land, and sea, right? This suggests the importance of creating complementary products and or content that work together as a part of a larger ecosystem, right? And so you may have courses that complement your live coaching, for example. And so when you launch your podcast, you can actually do that and repurpose that content into a course or a book, or maybe you start with a book. It doesn't matter. The main point I'm trying to make here is that the different aspects of the creation process, everything complemented each other, and so should your endeavor. Rest and reflection. This is so important. I can't tell you how much in my life, in my personal journey, I've had to go back and really understand the power of rest. Now, this is not explicitly in verses 1 through 31. It actually appears in chapter 2. But the principle of rest after creation is extremely important. Now, and understand this. God did not rest because he was tired. He doesn't get tired. He's not like us, like humans from that respect. But the principle of rest after creation is important. This is a framework, this is a principle, and something that we can guide our lives by. And so build in time for evaluation and reflection and rejuvenation in your business or content creation schedule. If you look at the fact that on the seventh day, God rested. And so that was what we now know as the Sabbath. And when you incorporate the Sabbath into your endeavors, into your business, into your programs, into your ministry, I can't stress this enough. I know so many people do not rest. They think that because they're in ministry that they don't need rest. Ministry is ongoing. And I know this from experience. I have been in ministry, the traditional type of way, the way we think of ministry in a traditional sense. That is not what I'm talking about. Because in the first place, think about this: everything that we do is considered ministry. Every aspect of our lives is considered ministry. But we also go from assignment to assignment to assignment to assignment. But God wants us to glorify him in everything that we do. And so you need rest. So you have to build in time for reflection and rejuvenation. If Jesus took time away from the people for rest and rejuvenation and prayer, so should we. Let's move on. Progressive development. Creation progressed from basic elements to more complex forms. And this suggests starting with fundamental offerings and gradually developing more sophisticated products or content as you grow and learn. This is really, I can so identify with this aspect. When I first started out in my business years ago, more than 25 years ago, even longer than that, because I had my organizing business that I started back in 2003. And so I had other businesses prior to that. But my point is, I always wanted to start out with these complex, overwhelming thingamabobs, widgets, or things that I wanted my client to grasp, which in turn overwhelmed them. And so you really, when you start with the fundamental offerings. I wanted to start with this huge program or this huge process. Even in my organizing business, I wanted them to get it all. But you can't do that. There's so much you have to learn. These are mistakes that I made in my business and in my podcasting journey. And so over the years, I've learned to gradually develop your sophisticated, if you will, products or content as you grow and learn, right? And so let's move on to the next one, because now we're talking about clear communication. Oh boy. God spoke clearly about what he was creating and why. And so this emphasizes the importance of clear communication with your audience, with your customers and your team members about your vision, expectation, and deliverables. Here's the thing. You have got to understand that just because you say something, that doesn't mean that that's what they heard. You have got to learn to be a better communicator. This is, for me, this really hits home because I'm learning this thing about communication. There are times when I'm talking to my client and I think I said the right thing. And then when we talk again, they heard something completely different. And so there is something to be said about clear communication and the way God spoke clearly about what he was doing and why. Let's move on to, lastly, but certainly not least, multiplication and growth. The command to be fruitful and multiply can be applied to strategic growth in business and audience building for podcasts. This is how we are always ensuring that growth is sustainable and beneficial to all that's involved. You have got to understand the importance of multiplication and growth, or you're going to be stagnant. Things are not going to progress. Things are not going to multiply. You must apply being fruitful and multiply in your business and in your podcasting. That could mean so, for example, when you are thinking about launching your podcast, right? Think about how you're going to repurpose your content into snippets or into courses or into other products or anything that you deem that can be sustainable and beneficial to everyone involved. So these principles can provide a very strong foundation for ethical business practices and meaningful content creation. This helps to build something that provides genuine value while maintaining high standards of quality and integrity. And so, with that in mind, I invite you to explore these things that we just talked about here. Which of these principles spoke to you the most? I would love to hear from you. You can either send me a message wherever you're listening to this podcast. You can, whether it's Spotify or whether it's on Amazon Music or if it's on Apple or whatever podcast platform you're listening to. Feel free to send me a message. I would love to hear from you, and just let me know where you're listening from and what was your takeaway from this episode. And if you're serious about launching your podcast right away, then grab my A to Z $7 podcast launch checklist and guide. And I promise you, it is very robust. If you go to a link that's going to be provided in the description, you can go and grab your podcast launch checklist and guide. And in this, you will find from A to Z how to launch, monetize, grow, how to even get leads from podcasting. And so if you want hands-on guidance, then also you can book a strategy call with me. That link will also be in the show notes of this podcast episode. I want to thank you for joining me. I want to thank you for tuning in to the Organizepreneur podcast Launchpad. And join me next time as we dive deeper into more topics on business, podcasting, productivity, and motivation. And remember this, your voice matters, your message matters, and your ministry matters. And with God's guidance, we can all impact lives through podcasting. Until next time, this is Aldreama signing off for now. Be blessed.